guys, it's Bia, your favorite sustainable anti-fast fashion, alternative fashion content creator and educator. Hi, for those of you that are new, my name once again is Bia. That hasn't changed in 11 seconds. And I am a sustainable fashion content creator and educator, specifically focusing on alternative fashion, and this is primarily done through a variety of online platforms, including here on YouTube, where this video is being watched by you and was made by yours truly, and then over on TikTok, there's a link in the description for those of you that would like to follow me there. And I am, as mentioned, continuing my How to DIY series, since we're in my DIY/craft and art room. And we're gonna talk about something that obviously I said I was gonna talk about, things that weren't just making your own jewelry and weren't just DIY jewelry. And we're gonna talk about sewing machines and the things you need to make your own clothing and bags. First, sewing machine and a just general understanding of how to use a sewing machine. I feel like hand sewing is a lot more difficult and complicated to learn versus one of these things, and I would 100% recommend going out and investing in a good quality sewing machine. Or if you're very close with your mother or your grandmother, she probably has a sewing machine that she's not using that you can go and ask her for. I will make a series of videos coming up, or shorts, I'm not really sure, on kind of how to use a sewing machine and the basics of using a sewing machine, since I've noticed a lot of people within my life as well as online don't really have the knowledge of how to use a sewing machine, and it's very handy, especially for making and altering clothing. So obviously the first thing you're going to need is a sewing machine, and one of the things you're going to need for a sewing machine is thread. If you give me 1 second here, is thread. I don't know, you guys can kind of see it here. I have a variety of different threads. I've been sewing off and on for a good part of my life, so I'm pretty good if you want to take advice for sewing. I really got into it this year, especially with the DIY and alternative clothing hobby that I started to develop. So you're gonna need thread. This is my, well, that's awkward. I can find it where I can use it. That is my personal favorite thread. It's just black, but you can get a thread in a variety of different colors. For example, here's a navy blue thread. This is a white and a gray thread. I have red, I have yellow. I have a variety of different colors of thread, and I would definitely recommend that, especially if you want to do a lot of different projects that are with a lot of different colors and utilize a lot of different fabrics. Also, on your machine, you have a variety of different types of stitches. That's pretty handy. I'll talk about that in my how to use a sewing machine. Because outside of the basics of threading a sewing machine, I'm pretty much self-taught, so I'm a good person to take advice from. For thread, though, I would definitely recommend, especially for a sewing machine, you get a big vertical spool of thread like the one I have here. You can get these at pretty much any craft or sewing store. I would not recommend Michael's. I would recommend any other craft store, especially now that Joann's is closed. I would not recommend Michael's or Hobby Lobby just because their prices can be very high. I would definitely recommend going to a local sewing store, especially to get supplies and fabrics, or going to an online sewing supplies wholesale store. But I'll talk more about that and wholesale jewelry supplies and purchasing those later on in this series, once we've kind of made a couple projects together. Next up, you're going to need are these things. They're called bobbins. If you have a sewing machine or you go out and purchase them, your sewing machine will come with the kind of bobbin you need. I'll make a video on bobbin winding since you have to wind this with thread. This is an essential. Please go out and get bobbins that work for your machine specifically. If I give any machine tutorials on my page, there definitely will be a mention of my machine manufacturer and the type, just because it can be very different from machine to machine. But definitely go out and get bobbins if your machine does not already come with them, because you cannot sew without a bobbin. And next up is something that is pretty essential. It's fabric. I have a lot of different fabric, and I think that I want to spend a lot of time in this video talking about fabric. There's a couple different ways you can obtain fabric. The first, which is a pretty cheap way to do it, is a lot of fabric stores will sell runoff fabrics from their bulks when they cut it, and they have a lot of runoff. You can probably get some really good ones. These are obviously from Joann's, and I'm keeping them because I want the Joann's label now that she's gone. Rest in peace, Joann. But I would definitely recommend, if a local craft or sewing store near you has bulks, bulks, like scrap fabric bulks, to go out and get them, or look online for some online fabric stores. Fabric is something I would not recommend you purchase online unless like you absolutely know you only need a fabric for the color and the texture doesn't matter. But yeah, I have a lot of these bulks. I just pulled out a couple to show you guys. We'll put them back there for now. Obviously, as I mentioned, you could buy fabric bulks. This is where you go, you get the rack, you look through the racks and see what different patterns and colors you want, and then you get like 1 yard, 2 yard, 3 yards, etc. However many yards of fabric that you need. I personally these are brand new, and I thought that's why I want to make these videos. These are brand new off the bulkhead fabrics that I just bought today from a local store. If you're in the Central PA area, I'm shouting out Half Moon Handiworks in Camp Hill. Technically, it might be in New Cumberland. It's over near where Cedar Crest High School is. I don't go there. I cross the river. But yeah, this is really handy if you want a really nice, high quality fabric and you know exactly what color, what pattern you need, or you have an idea in your head, because we're artsy, we're crafty, things change, we have visions in our head, and sometimes we can't exact them. So yeah, I would definitely recommend that. And then another thing you can do if you're in the US or Canada, I don't know if I have any European viewers watching. If I do, hi, hello, bonjour, hola. I think that's, I don't know hi in, oh, buongiorno. I think that's hi in Italian. My language knowledge of non-Germanic and Spanish, my language knowledge of non-French and Spanish isn't great. But this is an online bulkhead of, those are both 1 yard. These are both 1 yard. And I'm pretty sure this is 3 yards. I bought this online off Michael's Bulkhead. This is cotton fabric. For myself and the projects that I like to do and will probably can do for this series are going to be cotton fabric. And I'm definitely going to recommend buying cotton fabric. Another way you can get fabric is from embroidery fabric. Pretty much embroidery fabric is just cotton fabric. So if you're already using cotton fabric that's cut off bulkheads at the store and you're getting your 1, 2 yards, whatever, however many yards you get, you can also buy embroidery fabric because it's pretty much just a smaller amount of cotton fabric, somewhere between usually a ½ yard and a yard. So this is just simple black embroidery fabric that I'll probably use for either scrap quilts, patchwork scrap quilts, or something of that nature. I would definitely recommend this if you want to specifically have a piece of fabric that you dedicate to your scrap or your crap fabric, as I like to say. Next up, some stores, especially independent, smaller business, local fabric stores, will sell fabric squares, which is small amounts of fabric that are usually put together so that you can make a quilt. That way you don't have to do the process of looking through racks, finding fabrics that work, or visualizing specific fabrics in your head and then having to go to the store and find them. I just purchased these, obviously, from, once again, Half Moon Handiworks. I would 100% not only recommend that store for quilting, but recommend these just because I have not had the experience of using them. But I personally think that this will be very handy, especially if you're really bad with colors, or you might not know how exactly to start a quilt or something like that. I will be using these for a quilt, and if there's any leftover fabric, it'll just go in my scrap bin and hopefully get used for more projects. And then the final way you can get fabric is actually off your old clothes. For example, if you have clothes that you don't like or want to upcycle or something like that, you can easily just use those for fabric, since almost every piece of clothing you've ever purchased in your life was made by hand out of fabric. And a great example of this is if you have old jeans or old denim jackets or anything that's made out of old denim, you can definitely utilize that for fabric. We'll talk about sewing with denim a little later, but I will touch on it in this video. But for example, this is the side off an old denim jacket that I've been using to cut up and make stuff out of the denim. Obviously, you could tell it's just the side and the sleeve. But yeah, that's another incredible way to get fabric, is to get it off your old clothes, especially if you want to aim for a zero waste, or you don't want to go out and buy things because maybe you don't have the money or you don't have the time. You can easily just go look in your closet, find clothes that you really don't want, cut them up, and use the fabric that made up those clothes for fabric for further projects. Another thing that's pretty handy for sewing, especially machine sewing, personally I do not know how to hand sew, so I cannot talk about hand sewing, is patterns. These are really handy if you want to make something. These can be found in a variety of places. You can buy these online. Michaels might have a few, since I'm pretty sure they bought the brand that used to make and sell patterns in Joann's stores, but I'm not aware. There are incredible pattern makers on Etsy. People give them out via newsletters. There are so many different ways to get and obtain patterns. These my mom purchased for me. I have obviously not had the chance to open or use them. I might talk about sewing with a pattern once I'm a little more versed in it. Personally, I do not like to sew with a pattern. It's not something I like to do. I like to create things straight from scratch out of my brain, or I like to alter clothes that I already have that fit me well. Thirdly, I have another item that you can probably use. Ribbons. Ribbons are really fun to sew and attach to clothing, to sew into bows. There's so many different uses for ribbons. They come in so many different colors and textures. Here's two separate ones. Obviously, this one's a navy blue. I actually used this recently to create a little dog leash for my dog, as well, that had a little handle padding, and then black ribbon. So yeah, pretty self-explanatory. Ribbons are great. Ribbons are essential if you want to make really fun, cute clothes with lots of fun details. Ribbons are great. Go out and purchase some, or you probably already have ribbon in your house, so you can also use that ribbon. Also, especially for machine sewing, needles. You're going to need replacement needles at some point, depending on the material your fabric is. I will admit I'm very bad at oiling my sewing machine and changing my needle. I usually do not change my needle until it breaks. It's while I'm sewing, or if I feel like it's really wobbly. There's a reason for that. I don't really want to super get into it, because that would make this video very long. I'm also just really lazy, and I don't like editing these super long videos. But yeah, definitely go out and purchase a pair of denim needles. There are plenty of different kinds and materials. As long as it says denim or jeans, because most people know denim more commonly as jean or jean material, that's pretty much going to be a good denim needle. You're going to need that. But yeah, there are different kinds of needles for metallic fabrics, for denim, for that fabric that lights up. I don't know what it's called. For leather. So yeah, just go out and buy a material based on your project, and do not attempt to sew denim, leather, or metallic with a universal needle, which is a standard sewing machine needle. Those are made by everyone. The brand doesn't matter. I have had them from Singer. I've had them from Brother themselves. Schmetz is a new brand that I just saw at my local Half Moon Handiworks store. And next up is pins. This is going to be super handy because pins can hold your fabric until you're able to sew them and actually get that stitch into the fabric. Personally, I only use pins on certain materials. I'll show you a little later on in this video what I personally like to use instead of pins. And pins can also be very handy if you're cutting out a pattern on fabric, because you can pin the pattern to the fabric. So I would recommend that. And lastly, one of the last things I have to show you guys is clips. Clips are the alternative to pins that I personally like to use and would recommend, especially if you have a lot of issues with sharp things, pointy things, or needles. I would definitely recommend clips. Obviously, there are some cases where pins are better than clips, and in those cases, that kind of just comes out to whatever you think works for you or whatever you saw. For example, I made a choker similar to this one, but with a ribbon instead of safety pins, obviously. And I needed to use pins for that because I couldn't use clips. But I would definitely recommend getting a lot of clips and getting a lot of pins. Just because clips, not only do they break easy, and that's one of the biggest cons with them, but if you get a lot of them, you'll have a lot of different pins to use. You can probably find a bunch of different sizes. And these can pretty much be found at any craft or sewing store. You can find pins because they're an essential. I would recommend pins or clips. And I would definitely recommend having a lot of both pins and clips because different ones work for different projects, and it's all up to your personal comfort and what works best for you and your projects. And there's one more thing that I'm going to recommend. There's a couple more things that I could recommend and talk about, but sewing supplies definitely depend on what you want to do personally and what you think works best. So there's a few more things, don't worry. I totally forgot. Fabric scissors. Buy fabric scissors. They are only to be used on fabric. And if you live with other people, especially children, and they steal your fabric scissors, punch them. Punch them. Normal scissors are for everything that you need cut. Fabric scissors are only for fabric and when you need fabric cut. That is something that was stressed on me. They will dull, if you cut things that are not fabric with your fabric shears or fabric scissors, depending on some people's tailors, they will dull the shear, and you do not want that because then it makes it harder for it to get through and cut fabric. So fabric scissors, only use them on scissors. My personal favorite are from Fiskars, which is a German steel company, but they make lots of great sewing, cutting, and fabric cutting equipment. So I definitely recommend getting a pair of Fiskars fabric shears, especially if you want to cut fabric, because trust me, buying fabric scissors makes your life a fucking hell of a lot easier. Next up is a container. You can use random stuff as a container. All you need is something that has an inside. I have it off right now, but you probably have a machine with something like this. This is from an older machine, or like this, which can hold your stuff. Personally, I take off my machine thing because I don't like having it there when I sew. That's probably not a good idea, but I've never experienced any issues with it. And you might also, on your sewing machine, another note on that is you might have something like this, which I really like to use this when I sew because I have more room to maneuver with and move around the fabric on my machine. And then I have not had the opportunity to use this yet. Obviously, it's still in the packaging, but this Fray Check liquid sealant is really cool. I've seen it used. It can basically be used to seal any fabric or any edges or fraying on your fabric. And that's probably very handy, especially if you make a lot of stuff or you're like me and you don't have access to an iron because, yeah. Nextly, there is more thread in this. Is a storage container, as I mentioned. All you need is something with a large enough hole inside that you can hold stuff. For example, I have a random container of more pins. You can tell I never use this. I have more thread in here. I have elastic. I have a seam ripper. Another essential, by the way, a seam ripper. I like the Fiskars seam ripper because it's got multiple ends. This one's stuck straight up in a carpet. I call this my crap fabric. That's actually my stress fabric, but anyway, sorry for another time why I have stress fabric. I would definitely recommend Fiskars for any of your cutting equipment. And I promise that I was not attempting to make that chaotic. It's just that this video was currently 17 minutes long at this point, and it might get cut down or it might not. So it could be 17 minutes long for you guys when you're watching this, but yeah. And I have one more thing to show you guys that can help you out with sewing, especially if you're designing clothes. And I'll show that to you guys in a second. Okay, so some of you may or may not know what this thing that is standing up next to me is. This is a dress mannequin. There are plenty of different kinds. There's ones that are adjustable in all different ways. The one I personally have is not adjustable. Those are a little more pricey, and if you just want a starter one like I have, just go for a standard non-adjustable dress mannequin. And that is what I personally use and what I would recommend, because I'm only ever going to recommend you guys stuff I use on this channel as well as on all of my other platforms, just because I know they work. And yeah, I do hope they work for you, and if they don't, you're free to send me a message on any way. If you want more information on how to send me a message, I talk about that a little more in the closing of every video. But yeah, obviously this has a dress that I did not make. I actually thrifted this dress off Depop on it because I use it a lot to show off necklaces and stuff as well. So if you want to make fabric, for example, you can take fabric and you can drape it and pin it, all kinds of ways to make clothing and garments and things like that. And I would definitely recommend, if you want to make garments that way, that you invest in a dress mannequin. It's also a very easy way to make clothing, and it's the way I personally like to use, as I do not like to use patterns. This can also be very handy for my Depop sellers who are out here who might be watching this channel, because you can actually put your items on here and take pictures of them. That way your interested customers know what your items look like when they're standing up. In addition to that, for my people that sell jewelry, this is great because you can set up your jewelry in a way that it looks like on a neck without having to physically put it on your neck. And also for my content people who like to make content with jewelry, I personally like to take pictures of my jewelry that I make for content on here, now that it works really well, and then I post them as a straight photo. So yeah, that's kind of like why you should invest in a dress mannequin, especially for sewing, and in particular sewing and making your own DIY garments. And yeah, that's it, and I'll sit back down. I'll be right back with you guys when I sit back. Okay guys, as you can tell, I'm back and I have sat down to do the outro. If you guys have noticed, my voice is very dry and very painful by the end of these videos. I am completely done with talking, and I'm probably going to shut down and edit for the rest of the night. Just because my voice does not want to talk anymore. Like, my voice was in pain by the end of the last video I filmed today, which was last week's video. And the video that I'm filming right now, this one, yeah, my voice hurts right now as I'm doing this. And it always hurts when I get to the outro. But now it is time for me to do my least favorite part of the video. But it's a part that I have to do in every video. And that is my outro, where I have to say goodbye to you guys. And that's why I hate it so much. But no video is a complete video without an outro. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this video just as much as I enjoyed making it. I hope you guys had just as much fun watching it as I did making and editing it. If you like this kind of content, make sure to subscribe, because that tells the algorithm that you like me and you want to get notified for my content. And it tells the algorithm that you want to see more of my beautiful face and want to see, especially if you want to see new posts in the How to DIY series, whether it be jewelry related posts or posts related to making clothing and bags, which is something that I really like to do, and I love sharing that with you guys. If you like this video, you can like the video, because that tells me and the algorithm that you want to see more content like this, both from me and from other creators, since I love to boost them. In a couple hours, I will be filming a shout out that'll just go out as a simple post before both of the videos that I filmed tonight go out for a friend of mine, so you can check that out. That will be cross-posted to my TikToks. And speaking of my social medias, all of my social medias are linked in the description if you want to check those out. There's my personal Instagram, which is pretty much just silly stuff, photo dumps, things that a teenage girl would post on her Instagram, because truly I am just a girl and I am just a teenage girl who likes to make content. My DIY and fashion Instagram, as I mentioned, I post a lot of content on there. I try to post at least once a day on there, just little things such as outfits or little behind the scenes moments from me producing content, whether or not that be thumbnails, whatever it is. I love to post behind the scenes content on there, so you can follow me there for behind the scenes content and daily uploads of reels and things that I talk about in a similar nature, as well as just photos of DIYs that I've made. I love doing that. The next thing is my TikToks. There's my personal TikTok is linked. That's just silly little outfit checks with music, me lip syncing and me dancing to songs that I love. So if you want to get a taste into the music and the music I listen to and what my music taste is, that TikTok is a great place to start, because I just post random shit with songs that I love as the background song. And then my fashion and DIY in TikTok, my fashion and DIY TikTok, that is also linked down below. You can follow that for very, very similar content that you see here on the YouTube. For those of you that don't have access to TikTok and are worried about missing out on content on there, it is all cross-posted on Instagram and potentially YouTube Shorts in the future. The last thing on there is my photography Instagram. You can follow that. I don't post much on there, to be honest. I wouldn't recommend following it unless you want a rare post of my photography, which is something I like and enjoy doing, and that is also available on there. And yeah, the last couple things on there are a link to my Discord, which is a place that you guys can have fun and hang out with the other people that view my content here on YouTube, as well as on TikTok and all my other social ventures, as it's linked on all of them. And you can also talk to people that I personally know, whether or not they be my online friends or people that I know in real life. You can speak to them and interact with them, and that's one of the reasons I would recommend joining my Discord server, just because there's so many amazing, fun people. Some of you are probably watching this video, as well as there's a few different other creators on YouTube that are also on my server that promote their channel, and they make similar content to me. So, if you would like to see all of that, hang out with people I know personally and online, or talk to other creators and see their content and see how they do it, who make similar content to mine, you can go ahead and join the Discord. The join link is in the description, and that is always valid. And there's also a link to my Substack, where I write about where I do written content on a variety of different topics, everything from fashion, nature, my experiences as a teenage girl and growing up producing content on the internet from such a young age, how that affected me, Eurovision, and just things like that. You can find that on my Substack blog, which is linked down below. That is the join link, so when you click that link, you will instantly be joining my Substack, and you will see the next post from my Substack into your email. And the last thing on that is my personal business contact email. I 100% would recommend that if you would like to talk to me and send me an email, please do. Obviously, that email is connected to a lot of different things, so I could potentially miss your email. So if you are wanting to email me about something and you watch this video for whatever reason, and you want to email me about something related to this channel, or just speak to me or send me a message, I will try my absolute best to get back to you as fast as I can on there, but I'm not very active at checking my email, but I will try to. And just make sure you put YouTube in the subject line, since I have that set up as an autofilter. But that's all for me. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope you have a beautastic